All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, built every day by our friends over at R&B Builders. Get in touch with Rhett and the crew today. What a time to be alive right now, man. What a week in LSU sports as the LSU women's basketball team captured their first national championship in basketball on either side, on the university, at the university. How sweet it was to see LSU win their Final Four matchup versus Virginia Tech on Friday and then stamp that championship run on Sunday with an incredible game that was went down with LSU scoring over 100 points. So many storylines to talk about, and we bring the Queen on now. It has been a whirlwind for her since coming back from Dallas with the trophy. They have been introduced all over the place. Yesterday's parade was awesome through campus. As she was on the back of a Ferrari that was driven by Gordon, and it was a beautiful sight. Good morning, Coach. Congratulations. How are you?
Well, I'm excitedly tired.
I bet. Have you slept?
It's all good. Yeah. I get about 5 hours a night, and but that's good. That's all I need. I don't turn on a alarm clock. Just wake up when it's time to wake up, and I guess I'm still excited.
Yeah. Coach, I was saying last week that in knowing you just a little bit, I didn't think that personally, not that you would say it publicly, but I didn't think that you were really surprised that you made it to the Final Four just because of the competitive nature of who you are. I thought that you were surprised to wake up Monday as national champs. What has this run been like for you personally?
Well, I use the term you have to be fair, and I don't think it would be fair to me, to the staff, to these players to ever think you should have a goal in your second year of to be in the Final Four, and good Lord, certainly not to win it. Now, internally, that's why we coach someday to get there, but it kind of reminds me of my 2005 first championship at Baylor. We just got on a roll. And that doesn't take away from the fact we had a great season. Good grief, we had a wonderful season. But those 6 games you have to win to get to a national championship and to win it all, you got to get on a roll. Now, the roll wasn't good offense all the time, but you stayed true to who your identity was, and that was defense and rebounding, particularly in the Miami game. And then to think 2 games later, my gosh, you score 102 points in the national championship game. It's what kids dream of. All those kids that play just dream of having that one shining moment, and they all did.
Bob Starkey said the night before the Iowa game, you looked around at the coaching staff and said, we're due to have a good shooting day. Did you anticipate you coming out and shooting that well?
Not that well, but I did say to them, guys, we haven't shot the ball well in months. And I said, and that includes our best players. I said, if we can just get 2 or 3 on a roll here, we might surprise some people. Little did I know the 3 that it would be your subs in Samaya Smith, Jasmine Carson, and last year Poa. Those 3 young ladies won the championship for us in the second quarter.
Jazz, I was going to ask you specifically about Jasmine Carson's day and that first half. That was your celebration. I thought going into halftime kind of said it all of just how electric her first 2 quarters were. What about that? You've seen this stage so many times, the national championship stage. What was that performance like?
I can't remember in all my years of being there that I ever saw a young lady. She couldn't miss. She was shooting it from NBA range. Now, I have seen Jasmine do that for us this year at Florida, comes to mind. I mean, she would have people all in her face, and she just was lighting it up. And it was like that, but on a bigger stage.
What was the game? Bob Starkey said some interesting stuff yesterday about your game plan against Caitlin Clark, and what he said was everybody around the country was thinking that we were worried about the 3. We were really worried about the paint. I thought your defense was really a storyline in the game that kind of got lost in it because your offense was so electric. What did you think of your defensive play?
Oh, I just thought if we can keep Alexis Morris on her the majority of the game, we're going to be okay, because Alexis just has that lateral speed and quickness. You knew she was going to get her points. You knew that she was going to make those threes and just wow the crowd. What we had to emphasize is don't let her have twos. She has 10 to 12 points against South Carolina in their layups. And I think if I go back, I haven't done it yet, she may have had 1 2-point basket. And that was our game plan. It was like, we're going to give up threes with a hand in her face, but you can't let her score that many points off layups. And certainly the whole game plan was try to get to the foul line more than them. Don't let them beat us from the foul line.
Yeah. You're I mean, offensively, I don't know what else to say on how much you got going, but that was just, was that the best game y'all played all year?
Well, certainly you would say it is because of the stage, 102 points. Now, we've scored up more than that in a game, but it wasn't against good competition. It was during that so-called non-conference schedule that was so weak. Well, maybe I was a genius after all.
Coach,
maybe
they were praising you on the pregame show. They had Ole Miss's coach on there. They had Stanford's coach on there, and they were saying everybody was banging on Mulkey for a preseason schedule. They were like, you know what? We might schedule like she did because her team looks fresh. Everybody looks beat up, and they look like they're ready to roll.
Well, I have to say this. Coaches need to quit listening to other people and do their own schedule. They know their team. They know their weaknesses. I'm in year 2 with one returning player at the time that schedule was completed. And I say one returning player. I had more returning players, but I had one that played significant minutes in Alexis Morris. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to overschedule. No coach should ever listen to others when they do their schedule. Now, what has happened, Jordy, these coaches that thought they had 5 returning starters, man, we're going to go get that schedule done good. We're going to get a great net. By the end of summer, some of those teams lost kids in the transfer portal, and bam, you're hit with having to play that over that schedule that you did while you thought you had those kids. So I think all this scheduling stuff, people need to step back and realize the transfer portal creates a lot of problems for not only coaches and recruiting, but it affects your scheduling. It affects a lot of things.
My favorite moment of the week off the floor was you in the cowboy hat singing "All My Exes Live in Texas." How sweet was that to go back to Dallas? That was so great.
Subliminal.
That was so great.
But listen, Mulkey speaks the truth. Nothing that comes out of her mouth, whether you agree with it or not, is anything but the truth.
That's right.
I corrected myself. It's not exes. I've only been married once, so I made sure they put that in print. I don't have multiple exes. I don't want all these men out there thinking, man, I just go through men like crazy. No. I've been married one time, and he does live in Texas.
That's so great. That was such a great moment. What is your first ask to Scott Woodward now that you are the national championship
Strike while the iron's
coach
hot.
here?
I don't ask Scott for anything.
I tell them.
Scott's been great to our program, and he stays out of the way. The man wouldn't even cut down the nets,
Wow.
and that just touched my heart because it just tells you he's proud as a peacock. He wants none of the attention, but Scott got me here.
Yeah.
And it's the personality of he's not arrogant. He knows he's the most powerful person in that athletic department, but he's not the most important. And he realizes what his role is. And I'm so happy. I'm happy I'm here. I'm happy he's my boss, and I'm happy for him. When you go out and hire coaches and they succeed, it makes you look great. And he's deserving of everything people say about him.
When the camera showed you crying, my son looked over at me and said, "Dad, are you crying?" I said, "Son, watch the game." As I was tearing up thinking about what you were accomplishing here in year 2, Coach, how much you mean to me and how special that was for everybody here in the state. Did you think you cried too early?
Nope. Okay. I knew I was going to hold on to that 16-point lead. All I had to do was tell them, hold the ball. They're going to foul you the rest of the game, and get the ball in Alexis Morris's hands. Yeah. Certainly you wait till after the game, and I always have because I've shed tears before. But there was something, I don't know exactly. It was about a minute and 32 left in the game, and I said, Kim, you're fixing the ball like a baby. Stop. And so I knelt. I first leaned back on the scores table there, and I looked up and had this little smile on my face, and then I said, oh my gosh, you're trying hard, but they're coming. And so I squatted, and when I squatted, I tried to take both fists and just put them on my forehead and start rubbing my eyebrows. That didn't work. And then when I looked up, Flage, it was about 50 seconds to go at that point. Flage sprinting straight at me, so I had to brace myself in high heels to catch her. And then one of my assistants on the end, Johnny Derrick, is motioning for us to get off the floor, and I pointed at him, sit down. You're not telling me what I have to do at this point. We're going to win a championship. It was just all so surreal in that moment. I couldn't control it.
Oh, what a moment, Coach. I mean, Coach, you're at LSU. You're from Louisiana. You were surrounded by Louisiana people yesterday celebrating a national championship. Is this as good as it gets in your Hall of Fame, illustrious, great career?
It was so crazy at that parade, and it allowed all of us to go very slowly through crowds of people and look all of them in the eye and say thank you. And I know that they say thank you back to me, but no, thank you, because you don't do this without fans in the stands. Before we'd even won a championship, people in the community were doing their part, giving NIL deals to kids, buying season tickets, and we didn't win the SEC championship. We came in second. But they just want it so bad and so hungry, just like the team was. And so that was my whole deal, was to thank everybody there. And I will continue. Thank Scott Woodward for bringing me here. Thank you that I work for a president that absolutely adores these kids and loves women's basketball sincerely. He was more fired up last night after the parade when he spoke, and the players were just like, listen to Dr. Tate. He's so mild and meek and quiet. He was going crazy up there last night.
Right. It was. It was incredible. You could see the energy coming from them. All right, last year at this time, you were telling everybody, look, nobody expect us to be good next year. We got to rebuild this thing again. You're not going to be able to get away with that this year. I mean, you're returning a really good group, and now you got the number one recruiting class in the country coming in. What are your expectations for your program next season?
I'll take a deep breath when I'm sitting on that beach in August with my family and realistically come up with what our goals will be, how we have to feed this monster we've created, but yet make sure the fans understand, don't get carried away. We have to replace 3 starters in that lineup, and we have to bring those young ones in. Those young ones are not going to come in as seniors. They're going to take their licks and grow. And hopefully by the end of summer, we'll have if we're getting anyone in transfer portal, and I'll be able to realistically have some expectations that are fair. But certainly we get it. This brings an added dimension very quickly that we're going to have to deal with. And we're going to take this championship, Jordy, and just milk it until we have to get ready for next year. And right now, I don't think any of us can even think about next year.
Not as if you needed it, but jet fuel added to your recruiting message now as the national champion behind the LSU women's basketball brand. It's incredible. It's a great story. Thank you so much for the access and always coming on with us and sharing the stories. It was great to watch this season, and enjoy the offseason, and looking forward to year 3, Coach.
Jordy, what an amazing year. And to think you call me every time after my championships at Baylor. Isn't it fun now to be calling me after a championship at LSU, baby? Y'all have a good one.
Yes, ma'am. You too. Thank you very much. There she is, the queen. In Kim we trust, as Coach Wes Shin just dialed in and typed into the chat. Remember, we're daily brought to you by our friends over at Katie's Restaurant. Katie's Restaurant is located down in New Orleans. katie'sinmidcity.com, katie'sinmidcity.com. They've got a great sister restaurant in Francesca's by Katie's, which is located down in Lakeview. Check them out over there at katie'sinmidcity.com. And Coach was referring back to some of those conversations that we struck up a great relationship with Kim Mulkey when Kramer was very young at LSU. She was always around. And me being in radio, the first time I was at LSU's baseball facility and I saw her, I kind of thought to myself, is that Kim Mulkey sitting here? Like, I mean, like, that lady looks so familiar. Why she's just sitting over there like by herself, like reading the paper, and she had like an LSU baseball fishing shirt on, like button up.
Yeah.
Remember she used to wear those all the time?
That's what they show at the game every time.
And she was just sitting over there, and I'm like, Coach? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? And she was like, well, I'm here to watch Kramer play foul ball. They say you're going to get a chance at shortstop. I'm like, okay. I'm like, Coach, would you come on the radio with us? And she's like, absolutely. Take my cell phone. And I'm like, holy cow. And like ever since that day, I have like just like kind of like texted her about like basketball, like would talk to her almost like we were friends from the beginning. And I could tell that she was like, I'm with it. You know, like, I this is exactly how I am. So we started up this conversation where we would just text back and forth, and I would bring her on. And I remember LSU calling and being like, yo, like Nikki Fargas don't like this.
She's upset about this.
Like, Nikki Fargas don't really like that you have. I'm like, well,
what do you want me to do?
Stop. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying anything about the football program. I'm on everybody's side here. I mean, we got a chance to have Mulkey on. We're having her on. I'm sorry.
We're talking about baseball. What do you want from me?
Her son is an All-American shortstop. We're having her on.
At LSU.
And she's at the game. Get her to break it down.
And so we like kept the conversation rolling into basketball season, you know, like, and she was one of those, you know, she is one of those, you know, subjects, people that you bring on, like you can text her like at the end of the game, like, congratulations, great win. And like 20 minutes later, she's like, thanks. You know, you're like, damn. I mean, like, she's just
checking that thing.
She's just like one of us. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I got to check my text.
Yeah.
You know,
hold up. Give me a second. I got to check these texts.
She's very accessible. You know, she's very open with her program. I love the fact, to me, when you meet a coach that doesn't have secrets, that doesn't want to keep secrets, you meet a very confident person. Mm-hmm. Because coaches by trade, coaches by nature are the most protective, most silent, paranoid, most secretive people that I've ever met. Sometimes you meet some of them and you're like, bro, you got some issues. Like you got some serious
you need security.
You know, like Les Miles type stuff. Like every punter wearing number 38. It's like, dude, we're using way too much energy to do this. Like, you think they give a damn who the punter is?
How many days did we waste on this?
I mean, like, this is absurd.
Energy is best served elsewhere.
All of you have to wear number 38.
Yeah.
Every practice that Mulkey has is open. We could all three go sit there for 2 hours. She probably wouldn't even care if we had our cell phones out and was videoing it. I mean, they would probably have somebody from the SID office approach us faster than she would. You know what I mean? Like,
y'all know what I do?
Try to go into like Brian Kelly's practice now. You know, it's one thing that when he was trying to kind of ingratiate himself to the new people, like
lock and key,
open access.
Yeah,
you know, like SEC Western Division champs. F you. You know what I mean? Like,
step on
nobody getting in here. Back to the Les Miles policy. You know, I mean, it's just Mulkey she's wide open. Like that's what my first did when I first met her. I was like, when's the last time you met a coach of this caliber as open and honest as she is? Where, I mean, like, she gives you pretty much carte blanche access to her program. Like, you want to know her players? You can interview them. You want to know her assistant coaches? You can interview them. You want to talk to her the morning after a game? She'll talk. I mean, like, you got to understand how rare that is in that trade, in that profession, to be that open, to be that accessible. I mean, it's very rare. And for LSU to have the success in just year 2 under Mulkey, who is so motivated and driven to be here. Listen to that. Listen to her. I mean, she sounds, not that she ever sounded old, she sounds young again. She sounds young in the trade, like she's not going anywhere. She understands the monster that she is building here and the beast that she has to feed. It's so fun to think about what the next decade could be like as an LSU women's basketball fan. I mean, it really is. I mean, Lil J and I were talking about this a couple of days ago. It was when they won the Natty. I said, Jay, this is kind of like what you and I were talking about when the Pelicans drafted Zion. It was like the next 10 years was either going to be really cool if he could play. Now it's turning out the first part of it is kind of sucking because he never plays. Right? But I mean, like, you'll have at least the next decade of your life. You'll be watching an LSU women's basketball run that is going to be probably the golden age of the program. I mean, you're probably entering right now, just kind of coming off the first doorstep of what is the golden age of the program. I mean, listen to the motivation of the coach. Listen to the motivation of the assistant coach yesterday. And then think about what that roster is going to look like next season at that stuff. She was setting you up on that transfer portal stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where
She was
time to get
she
to work
was
now.
setting you up. Yeah, like number one recruiting class coming in. We'll see how they
Well,
get
listen, we're
adjusted.
losing 3 starters.
They'll
now.
catch their legs at some point, but then once that transfer portal gets all filled up, it'll give me a chance to really know what we need to go get. Hey, Angel, this is what we need. Tell them to go into the portal.
Angel Reese was just with one of the top girls in the transfer
Hell
portal
yeah,
yesterday.
she was. Angel Reese is the biggest personality in women's sports, not women's basketball. Angel Reese is arguably right now the biggest personality in women's sports. She's as influential as any athlete in our country right now.
Yeah.
And they're giving her the platform.
Absolutely. Everybody's embracing her. Everybody is following her. She went from 400,000 followers to a million.
Yeah,
in the
1.1
tournament. In
million.
the tournament.
And so did Flage.
I'd imagine by the time that basketball season tips off next year, she'll be around somewhere like 2.5, 3 million.
Yeah.
Especially if she keeps on this like media tour de
That's what I'm
force
saying.
with the NIL.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
like
everybody
nobody can
wants
tell her not to do it. And that's another thing that
Jimmy Fallon reached out to her.
Oh, see, and
Like,
that's
I mean, like
Yeah.
it's big tour
It's serious,
stuff.
yeah.
Like I mean, she's gonna be on network television.
and that's another credit to Kim, who doesn't stop that. Like, go be yourself, embrace your personality, go say what you're your own person. You represent LSU, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
And Kim Mulkey went third person twice, which
Welcome
I mean,
to the
you've
Hall-
earned it.
Welcome to the Hall of Fame.
yeah,
We
exactly.
appreciate you, Kim.
Right. Michael Jordan loves the game of basketball.
Basketball.
When Michael Jordan was playing the game of basketball, Michael Jordan was the best at basketball.
She would know.
Yeah, I mean, I got no problems with Kim Mulkey referring to herself in the third person. There's a lot of people that I would make fun of
Oh, yeah.
for referring to themselves in the third person. Kim Mulkey ain't on that list.
No, especially right now.
She ain't on that list.
Ain't a whole lot on that list of what she can't do right now.
All right, the Carpool Queen is here. We'll be back and have hour 2. Opening day of Augusta. They are underway at the Masters.
He's
Lloyd is
watching.
watching
I'm
live.
distracted.
A huge pickup for the men's basketball program yesterday. In fact, we will have that pickup here with us tomorrow morning on the show. Jordan Wright, former Dunham standout, and has done 3 years at Vanderbilt and played really at a high level in league in the SEC. A Baton Rouge native. He was in the same graduating class as Derek Stingley at the Dunham School. And is now going to finish up his career back home at LSU. Huge get for Coach McMahon and the crew as they get Jordan Wright, an SEC-ready guard coming back to Baton Rouge and ready to play. So good work by McMahon and the crew. Hour 2 coming at you. We'll check in with Chris Blair at 8:15 this morning for Columbia, South Carolina. We will have some thoughts on LSU and the Gamecocks coming up from The Voice at 8:15 this morning. Come back with us. Jordy Culotta Show, as we are built every single day by R&B Builders.